My brother was here, which was great. I thought maybe I would be a neuroscience person, and then I took that bio test that everyone has to take, and I was like, no, that's not gonna be me. And I was like, great, I'm gonna go do psychology. My parents told me, who are here, they told me, make sure you talk to all your teachers and your professors, introduce yourself. And I did, and luckily, because I did that, I was able to get a lot of internships. I got to go to Cleveland Clinic. I got to go to Chicago, which is where I am now. And I left Wooster with a psychology degree, a math minor. I could literally write any paper right now. You can tell me to write something in 30 minutes, and I will get it done to you, and you will love it. And I left with loans, which I still have, and a job. Not the same one, but I did leave with a job. And I thought that I was going to get my PhD. All of that changed. I went to Chicago. I did go to that job. I was like a clinical program director. Wooster would call me and ask me what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm a clinical program director. And while I was doing that, I was realizing a lot of things because I was able to have access to a lot of resources where I was able to help people in mental health. But I was realizing that I was helping the same types of people. And most of those people were privileged. Most of those people had parents that could just come into my office and say, my child has ADHD, what can you do? I was able to go into schools and actually help those people. And I was realizing, there's not a lot of people that are looking like me that I'm actually helping, and that's problematic. And I went back to my, Wooster education. I was like, whoa, I know how to teach because I also studied education. Why don't I become a teacher? So that's what I did. I started teaching in Chicago public schools. I taught math because I was a math minor. I never thought that would actually come through, but it did. So I was teaching algebra to 7th graders. I was also teaching women's studies and just basic life skills to a group of 15 freshmen. So these 15 freshmen, I stayed with them until they were juniors. And during this time as a teacher, I was loving it. Every time someone asked me what I would do, I'm like, I'm molding minds, I'm working with these kids. We're just learning together. And we were. I was learning from them. They were learning from me, and I was being honest. I was making sure that I was also not only being honest with them, but telling them about all the different struggles that it is to be a Black woman in America. So through this time that I was learning from them and they were learning from me, I realized that I needed more skills because a lot of my students actually needed help more so in social-emotional help, And as a teacher, we do get trained in these things, but I thought, I can take it up a notch. Let me go to grad school. While I'm in grad school, I'll still teach because as I'm learning these skills, I'll use these skills. And that's exactly what I did. I was at Loyola, and I still am, and I was teaching. And also during that time, as I was teaching, I was realizing all these struggles that I was having just to do the right thing, which literally it says, just do right. I was having such a struggle with my admin. I was realizing that even though they're talking about all the social, emotional, and social justice, that they weren't actually representing the students that were going to the school. They weren't truly caring about the students and listening to their voices. But also during that time, I was realizing that I am actually good at teaching. I know how to make teaching fun. So my teaching wasn't just by the books. We were learning. We were taking photography. We were watching videos. We were watching TED Talks. And I was realizing that students really, really, really enjoyed being able to talk to someone they felt like they could relate to. I realized that students enjoyed putting their hands into something and making things happen. I realized that students loved having their pictures taken because they felt like, whoa, that's me, I look good, and someone can see me. They loved feeling represented. And I actually wasn't feeling quite represented at my school. And this was just last year, actually. I was enjoying teaching, but it was becoming extremely hard. Some of you guys might have heard of it. It's called burnout. And that's what happened. And if you don't know, actually, if you're a teacher that is a person of color, burnout usually happens way quicker because there's not a lot of representation of the staff with you. Even though you look like your students, you don't have a lot of support in that way. And I was getting burned out. but I did not want to get burned out of education or mental health. So I decided that, I need to do what makes me feel good. I need to give myself the authority. And also, I had to realize that it was a process, Right now, I was teaching, I was in grad school, I had these huge decisions, I was maybe even gonna move to New York, I was going all over the place, but I knew at this moment, something that I really did enjoy doing was making shea butter, which was what I used to do to calm myself down. I knew that I enjoyed working with kids. I knew that I wanted to go to Ghana, where I'm from. I knew that I like to travel. So I thought, why don't I somehow figure out how to do all those things? And I'm still doing that, so I'm gonna talk to you guys about it. So right now I own this business, I have this business called Hana Hana Beauty, where basically I get to make shea butter, and you guys get to wear it. My skin looks good. Your skin will look good too if you use it. I get to take pictures, which I also love. I get to be in pictures, which is kind of fun too. I also get to share other stories, and I get to talk about wellness, and I get to travel. That sounds really, really great, and it is, but it's also hard work. And there's a lot of different pillars that came into me being able to do all of this. So I'm gonna kind of talk to you guys about what are the pillars that I needed to make sure that what I was doing was not only benefiting myself, but benefiting the people that I was working with. Now, if you don't know much about shea butter, it doesn't just start from, just on your skin and that's it. It starts from a nut, and there's a lot of different processes that go through it. So I had to learn about that. And the one thing I had to do before learning about that was that I had to learn about my own self and be really confident in what I was doing. And that was something that I learned from my students. I would go up to my students and they would just be like, no, Miss Boamah, this is how it is, this is who I am. And I had to really realize that because when I moved around in Wooster, I was definitely confident here, but I was moving around to make people feel comfortable, and I truly wasn't comfortable in myself. So I had to start feeling confident in myself, because when I would talk to someone and they asked, what do you do? Who are you? I couldn't go around and be like, my name is Abena, when my name is really Abena. I had to be confident in my name. I had to make sure this is who I am. I am a Ghanaian American. I do this, I do that. And I had to make sure that I not only presented, but was actually confident within myself. And not only did I find that through my students, I found that through young girls in Ghana that I met and would go around and take pictures of them and had conversations. So I wanted to start making sure that, the pictures that are being taken of people, there's names behind it, that you guys would know this is Mame and this is Afia, and they are two young girls that are in Ghana that go to school. And you wouldn't just see their picture and think, oh, these are just two girls. I wanted to start making sure that people knew their stories, because I was able to hear their stories. I was able to grow my self-confidence. The next thing I had to really do is self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is this belief of what you're great at, the skills you're good at. So you gotta know what skills you're good at, you know what I mean? You can't just walk around and be like, I think I'm good at this, I think I'm good at that, I think I'm good at this. No, you have to know what you're good at. I know that I can come up on stage and talk to someone, and I'll be good at it. I know that I can talk to a student one-on-one and get to understand what is going on, and I can actually do that. I understand that I can make shea butter, but I also know that I'm not a soap person. You know what I mean? I realized that I knew what I was good at, which was making shea, talking to people, taking pictures, doing all these things, and I wanted to keep evolving myself in that. So one thing that I didn't know I was also good at was working with other women of color. So last year, one thing I knew that I had a struggle with was actually working with a lot of different women of color. Not because I purposely didn't want to, it was just that exposure wasn't actually happening a lot for me. So last year I purposely made sure while I was doing all this work, and luckily a lot of my friends, look like me too, was working with other women of color, being able to work with other photographers and hearing what they're doing, being able to work with other people that have already been in my shoes, and not only in my shoes, but people that are not in my shoes at all, that are doing other things. So this was a project of mine that I did, my friend Dion and I, who actually worked with Apple, and if you go to Apple today, you might see my face on there, because she's a photographer that actually goes around taking pictures of women of color and making sure that their stories are out there. Not just Instagram, but now we're working with bigger brands to put their stories out. So I started realizing my skills that, this impact that I was having in my 150, school of the students I was working at, that impact would go larger if I started using those skills that I knew about to work with other people. The other thing I started to realize is that, you actually have to learn new skills. Shai talked about this in the sense of, you need to evolve. The person that you were in 2016 should not be the person that you are right now. So, I was doing all these things. I was making shea, but I had to do my branding. I had to be able to learn Illustrator. Does anyone know Illustrator here? Okay, some people. Yeah, it's sometimes hard. But I had to learn how to do it. I had to start learning new skills, and not only learn those new skills, I had to use them. So I was in grad school, and I still am, and I was learning all these things about therapy. I was learning all these things about working with people that I never knew, and I could have just been in grad school and just did that and studied, but I actually had to use them and use them in the way that I knew how to. I know that when I leave grad school, that I'm probably not going to be sitting one-on-one with someone saying, tell me about your feelings, how's everything going? That's not me. I know, though, that I can do that when I'm walking around in Ghana or I'm walking around the streets and working with people. I can use those same communication skills while working with those people. So, I went to Ghana in 2017 in the summer, and I decided that, because I was making shea butter, I wanted to know about the women who actually were creating the raw materials. So I used all those skills that I just talked about, and I went to Ghana, and I basically, for the first 2 weeks, I kind of just had a good time. I didn't really do anything else but meet people, which was great. And then the last week I was there, I decided to go to Tamale and actually meet the women that were creating the raw shea butter that I was using to make my products. And during that moment, I was realizing how important it was to have humility and also show gratitude. I like to think that all the work that I do is literally just showing gratitude to the culture that I come from. The Ghanaian culture coming from the Black women that I know, my mom, my parents, everything. I like to see that everything that I'm doing is showing gratitude. And you might not be an entrepreneur, but you need to learn how to show gratitude. Wooster has actually taught me to show gratitude. Being able to come back is a way of me showing gratitude because it was able to give me the privilege to be where I'm at. And being able to be humble. I always think about the Kendrick song, Be Humble, Sit Down. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah, okay. So I always think about that because you need to be humble, because if you're not humble, you will be quite arrogant, and you will think that you know all the skills. And you have to be able to allow yourself to grow, and to be able to grow, you also need to learn. So this is a picture of my cousin, and I had a conversation with her when I was back in Ghana about showing gratitude, because she was just always saying thank you to me all the time, like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was like, what have I done? Like, why are you saying thank you to me? She's like, you're just here. And that's something that I had to start doing to other people. The fact that people are just there gives you a chance to learn. Every interaction that you have with someone is a possibility of a learning experience. And that was something that when I realized that, I was like, boom. Even if it's a bad interaction, even if it's, the best, whatever it is an interaction that you're able to learn from. And that was something that was so amazing. So now, to remembering that it's a process. So like I said, right, told you guys I went to Ghana, I met these women, they were showing me all these amazing things, how their process was. And being able to go back to Ghana and see their process allowed me to realize that everyone is in their own process. We're all at different spaces in our lives. And when you're allowed to realize that everyone is in their own process, you're able to interact with people in a better way. When I realize that I'm working with my clients that are showing a lot of anxiety and maybe have some traumatic experiences that have happened, and they're in maybe a process of just realizing it versus being able to attack it and go through, it helps me work with them. When I realized that these women were in a process of creating their shea butter, but they didn't know exactly how to maybe market it in the best way that they can make more money off of it and profit off of it, it allowed me to realize, oh, well, I know a bit of a process to help you with that. So what I did was after I went to Ghana, I decided, wow, these women are amazing. What they're doing is so great. Everyone needs to know. So I used my teaching skills, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to somehow put this together in a way that I would with my students, which is usually through video, talking to people, and photography. Luckily, I'm pretty good with the camera or the iPhone, and I decided to have a teaching exhibition. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Ghana, and I want to show everyone about the process of shea butter. And not only am I going to go back to Ghana and do this, I'm going to go around and tour this teaching exhibition so that it's another way for people to learn. It's not just in the classroom. You can be at an exhibition and learn. It's experiential learning. So I put together this video to show the process, and I also put together all the pictures and things and had this amazing exhibition in Ghana. And now I was able to come back, and I'm actually starting to tour it. And we're going to like South by Southwest, and we're doing stuff in Chicago and working around. But I wanted to show you guys a bit of the process. Are you okay with that? Okay.
Go to the bush and then pick the seedlings and then frying it.
This is after frying it, and then it's a wrap. Yeah. And then and then this is the oil.
They'll be removing the dirt.
Oh.
The dirty ones. The dirty ones will come up.
Okay.
And they'll remove it. And this is the dirty one.
So you like it? Yeah?
African woman, they walk up, their bottom, he go shake. He go shake from left to right. He go shake from left to right. He go shake from right to left. He go shake from right to left. African woman, who no get bottom. African people, they call them Sati.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's the process. That's a long process, right? Can you imagine starting from a nut and then creating shea? And this is something that goes on in more than 75% of the products that we use on our skin come using shea in it. And a lot of these people didn't know these women's stories. And I thought, you know what, I think it's important for people to know about the women behind the productions of these large companies. I thought it was important for not only these women, their stories to be known, but for them to see themselves. So when I did this exhibition, what I did was go back and actually meet the women again, because it's a relationship that we were building. You know, not only were they providing me with products that I was able to benefit off of, but other people were. I should be able to provide them something that they can benefit from. And I decided to give them back their pictures. And I didn't think that, you know, it would be a big deal, because I remember talking to them and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come back, I'll give you your pictures. And as someone that's usually in front of the camera, and just like anyone else, someone takes your picture and you're like, ooh, that's a good picture, send that to me. And then they don't send it to you, you're like, where's my picture at, girl? Where's my picture? Where's my picture at? And you know, our communications through WhatsApp and things like that, no one was asking for their pictures, but when I went back and they got to see these huge printouts of their pictures and take it home to them, the relationship that we had switched, because they realized that, you know, you're showing gratitude to us through your pictures. We're creating something. And, you know, when I was at Wooster, I honestly did not know what the graduation, like the mission of graduation and what it is to be at Wooster and what you needed to know. I never looked at that. It wasn't something I said. I was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that. But when Marina sent me it, I was like, you know what, maybe I should actually look at it and see what it means. And, you know, when I did look at the Wooster graduate qualities, I realized that these are the qualities, every single one of them, is of what I would want to work with. All the qualities that Wooster wants you to have is extremely important, not only for benefiting yourself, but also benefiting other people. Regardless if you're in the entertainment business, if you're teaching, if you're not, being able to relate to other people, being able to be honest with yourself, is only growing and allowing yourself to evolve. And when you're able to evolve, you're able to be a learning experience for someone else. And that is all that I want to do in my career, is to be able to curate learning experiences through this type of situation, through conversation, or types of exhibitions. Thank you.